the Upstairs to the Right Music channel. I am your host, Mike McWilliams. Welcome so much to you, or thank you so much to you, and welcome for showing up this evening. So glad to have you here. Let's make our adjustments as usual while we wait for more people to show up in the live stream. I think that Ben is lurking around out there somewhere. Welcome to you, sir. Yeah, great to be here. Another week, man. This week, this time last week, the temperature here was double what it was today. So I last week, if you remember, I was sweating bullets while I was doing the Wednesday night hum. And this week I've got like a sweater and a long sleeve shirt on. This weather in Amsterdam is all over the place. It's really something. So yeah. It's just crazy. There he is, Ben in the house. Mike Watson, too. Hey, guys, welcome, welcome. Thank you. Welcome to one and all. Frederick Rogers in the house. Good evening back to you, sir. How you doing? Yeah, just complaining about the weather here. It's just all over the place. And while we wait for more people to show up in the chat here, that's the funny thing is that, on Sunday, it was a beautiful day. Nice weather, no breeze, everything was great. I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to set up my paint tent and leave it up for the next week and spend the next week knocking out that Strat repaint project. But something in the back of my mind told me, you know what? Let's just wait and see another day and see how it goes. And sure, I'm so glad that I didn't. That would have been a disaster. That would not have worked out too great. And it's such that, I've been talking about this Strat project. I got the neck for it right here. It's been sitting here next to me forever. Yeah, we're going to talk about Japanese pickups tonight. That's right. And welcome to the chat, sir. It's just not happening. So I've kind of given up on that. I'm thinking, this month I'm not even going to think about it, and I'm planning on taking some time off in August, a well-deserved break, or at least at the end of this month going into August. So maybe that may be the time to set up. Maybe the weather will balance out, even out enough where I can get a week worth of sunshine. Although living in Amsterdam, that's really hoping for a lot. Hey, Benny in the house. How you doing, sir? Welcome to you. Good to see you guys, man. Everybody's showing up. That's fantastic. So Uncle Carlton, you got it. I'm glad you got the link, sir. Uncle Carlton in the house tonight. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for showing up, our uncle. I'll remind you again, you keep sending me those Facebook links. I don't have Facebook. So anyway, glad you got to this link, though. Thank you for showing up, Uncle Carlton in the house, Hall of Famer. So that got me thinking, today that, okay, that project's not happening. I'm trying to put together a Strat, project. I really would like to. I certainly have all the pieces for enough to put one together. But that one just seems to be slightly cursed, It's like in that movie, it's cursed. What was that? The Mummy. This is cursed. This is cursed. I'm just going to keep you laughing. Hey, I appreciate the humor, Uncle. The one about the weather was appropriate for today. That's fine. I know over there in the States it's warm. In LA, they're talking about triple digits, and over here I can't even get it warm enough to keep my plants alive. It's funny. This world is a funny place. At least we're not in some parts of China where you literally need a boat. But I looked at the Greco that I have here. So let's put this aside. So, as you guys know, this is a uh, a Greco SE 700, and I started really after I got this Greco. I never really bonded with Strats a lot. I think it's a McWilliams family thing. But I really did with this one so much. It has such a beautiful tone to it. It really does. And I really got interested in these XL pickups. So let's start from Greco and XL pickups. Let's talk about that a little bit. About pickups tonight, Japanese vintage pickups tonight, because I've never really gotten into it. And God knows in my lifetime, I've played enough Japanese guitars. Had quite a few here on the channel, have quite a few more coming up here. But I never really talked about the pickups aspect of it. I'm glad that I didn't because because I was never so deeply into Strats. Um, I didn't know the complete history of these XL pickups that came stock with these Greco guitars from the 70s. Again, this is a 1978. 1978, I believe. Is that what it is? Yeah, 78. Uh, but they were quite illuminating, the pickups in this Strat. Again, it is the Stratiest Strat. If you think of what a Strat sounds like and all the tones that you can get from a Strat, this thing produces that to a T, to a T. So I got interested in the XL pickups and looking into the history of that and those. And I was surprised to find out that they had a lot in common with my favorite pickups. As you know, I should have brought these down. As you know, my favorite humbuckers are the Dry Z's that came out of vintage Japan instruments now, but that were produced in Japan. This is a replica, probably the closest you're going to get not a replica, but a reproduction. The guy likes to say, I better get that right in case he watches this. The winder is in Croatia, and he has a set of Dry Z's that he patterned and made these copies. And I love the sound of Japanese pickups. That's why I have a set. I had a set made. And I was fascinated to learn the history of them. And I thought tonight we would talk about a little bit of it, about it. Um, Tonight we're going to take a deep dive into the world of vintage Japanese guitar pickups. We're going to explore the history behind these little electronic marvels and focusing on the work of companies like Greco and Maxon, and even touch on the possibility of Japanese pickups being a little bit of a good investment, depending upon the situation. We'll talk about that a little bit. So grab your favorite guitar and sit back and let's talk about it a little bit, shall we? Now, again, let's talk about Greco guitars. Again, I'm glad to have one here. Uh, this is the SE 700. So these Greco guitars, uh, let's talk about them a little bit. They're one of Japan's most iconic guitar brands. They're known for their high quality craftsmanship, um, and the fact that they made pretty doggone good copies of American guitars, is particularly back in the 70s. As I told you, there's no such thing as lawsuit guitars. There was no lawsuit per se. There was a cease and desist order that really went nowhere because the company that it was sent to basically had already, by the time the letter hit the door, this is the front door, they had already changed. But some companies didn't. And Greco, Bernie, Tokai, the list goes on of companies that we know, Yamaha. We got a great example of a Yamaha with a Gibson standard headstock on it here at studio. Um, and these guitars have been a favorite among musicians for decades for these reasons. They were super well made, even in some cases, better than the originals that they were duplicating. So much so that these guys who were making these Grecos later on started producing the Fender Japan models because Fender said, "Hey, we give up. You guys got us beat, especially in the '70s, and you're doing a much better job than we are. Why don't we have you take over?" And they did take over for a while. Now, these Greco guitars have Goto tailpieces, bridges, and tuners. So, Gotos are really well known. But let's focus on the pickups today. Not so much the hardware, but the pickups in this case, uh, which play a massive role in defining what I now know of as the Greco sound. When you pair these XL pickups with the dry Z's, um, you are talking about some pickups that people really will pay a premium to own. Had no idea in the case of the XLs, do now. Now, in the early '70s and '80s, Greco teamed up with a company called Nissin Onpa, and more commonly known as Maxon. So we all know about Maxon pickups. Maxon was responsible for some of the most revered pickups of that era. I remind you that Ibanez, the Super 70 was a Maxon pickup. The Super 70 was the pickup that Van Halen stuck in his Frankenstein guitar. So, just to give you a little bit of an idea about Maxon pickups and their import in the history of rock. Um, Now, Maxon was responsible for these pickup models, again, like I said, that are well known, like the UD, the U1000, the U2000 pickups, in collaboration with Greco. And these pickups were designed to replicate the tones of classic American guitars. And boy, howdy, did they succeed in that, especially in the case of the Dry Zs. The Dry Zs, if you look into it and look into the history of them, we'll talk a little bit more about them here. But just to give you a little bit of a background in terms of why they are so coveted, they are considered to be this statement that I wrote in my notes here. These pickups were designed to replicate the tones of classic American guitars. The Japanese flew over to the States. They bought a 57, a 56, 58, 59, 60. They bought a load of original. Remember, this was the '70s. They were expensive, but they're nothing like they are now. They were able to buy those, bring them over, and take them apart. And the pickups were no different. In the case of the Maxon Dry Zs, these are known to be the best pickups outside of original set of burstbuckers out of a 57, a 58, 59, or 60 Les Paul. They are considered only second to those. So original burstbuckers and Dry Zs in the hierarchy of pickups out there. And just to keep that in mind, and that's not my personal opinion, that's just a fact, because it gets into a little bit of hippy dippy stuff when guys describe. I've played Dry Zs. They are the most beautiful sound, which is why these are good. They're not quite there, but they're pretty doggone close, close enough. But a set of good Dry Zs have what I call overtones. Like you'll play something and it'll be the note, and then there'll be a ring and a ring above that. And if that makes any sense, a little hippy dippy there, but they're just beautiful sounding pickups. And the Dry Z was developed in the summer of 1979. So this is, over 20 years distance from when those burstbuckers were made. So in the term of time, 20 years, and the span of time of these things is, 20. Well, let's be generous and say 79. All right, we'll say 23 years, 24 years. It's not a big distance in time. So, and again, like I said, these guitars in the '70s from the '50s from Gibson were not vintage guitars yet. They were just secondhand guitars. They were used guitars. Um, But in that summer of '79, the Dry Z was a collaborative effort between a gentleman named Mr. Jun Takano from Musicland Key and Mr. Ishimuro, who was the head of the pickups division at the Nishin Opa at that time in the '70s. They worked tirelessly to create a pickup that closely resembled the original PAF. They were really examining the amount of wines that it took in order to produce, and they found the bobbin types, the magnet types, things of that nature. And again, PS were all over the place. Some had three Alnico 5 pickups. Some had threes, like the Dry Zs. Some had two, of course. They were a little bit all over the place, but generally they had a pretty good sample at that time. Again, because they were some guitar shops were taking the burst bunkers out of those 59s and 58s, 59s, and 60s back in the '70s and putting in super distortions because everybody wanted to be louder. And those pickups, those original burst burkers, were just sitting in boxes in places. So again, they've got value today, but it wasn't like that at this time. Just keep that in mind too. And because of that, they really wanted to create a pickup that closely resembled the original PAFs or patent of PAF stands for patent applied for, that defined the classic Gibson sound. And again, boy, did they succeed. They put that Japanese focus on recreating something and just really getting that and maybe even a little bit better. And the result, pickup that many guitarists and collectors today consider to be one of the finest PAF replicas ever made. The Dry Z pickups went through several iterations before they hit the market, each improving on the last until they nailed that perfect vintage tone. Now, Dry Z pickups can fetch up to $600 a set on the collector's market. Uh, and again, these replicas are half that price. So these are, for a set of these, you're going to cost you about $300 US. Again, if you have an original set that came with a guitar, or if you have a set laying around, you have something that has a value to it. Now, as you know, this is a new month, and I just had an unboxing video where I unboxed this Greco along with an Orville by Gibson SG from 1988, first year. And those were great. These are great, fantastic finds. The Orville by Gibson sold. It's gone. That did not last long, so I didn't even have the chance to do a proper rundown on it. It's okay. More will come by, I'm sure, in time. I was more interested in, as you know, keeping this Greco around for a while. But it is a new month and it is time for the hunt to go on again. And I was so impressed with this Greco early '60s Strat that I decided and came across, fortunately, the most famous Greco out there, Les Paul, and that is the Super Reel. So I have drawn a bead on a Super Reel. Uh, Now, the Super Reels were the guitars that had the Dry Z pickups in them. There was a ranking, as I told you before. In the case, this is a Greco early '60s, but it's a SE 700. The 700 denotes Nanama yen, 70,000 Japanese yen at that time. And anything above 700, anything that's a 700 in a Japanese series, anything above that, 700 is the baseline for just high, really good quality. But when you go above that, you can get into some really, really, really just top notch stuff. And in the case of the Super Reels, um, it is the same with them. As you go higher up in the price, the number, the 500 Goma yen, the 600 Rokuma yen, the 700, as you go up, the accoutrements that come with it get a little bit nicer. And in the 1200 and the 1800 of the Greco series of super reels, you can find, and the super reels only lasted from 1980 to 1982, the 2 year period that they created these guitars. Again, um, long neck tenon. In the case of an 1800, the super reel 1800, so that's Ju Hachiman yen. So that's pretty pricey, even for the 70s. That's a lot of, or early 80s. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. Not today, but quite a bit. Uh, they had Brazilian rosewood fingerboards on them. They had a stock of Brazilian wood. And if you got an 1800, you got the Dry Z pickups, which were those really nice pickups, and you got a Brazilian rosewood fingerboard on that. Pretty high quality stuff. Here's a fun fact. So the super reel that I got is not. It's the 850, the one that's on its way that I just picked out. That one in 1980, in the late December of 1980 to early of 1981, they ran out of rosewood. So those come with regular rose. Well, not so regular these days. Try finding rosewood these days. But they came with just normal rosewood, but they ran out of rosewood during that period. So they substituted with Brazilian rosewood. So there are some super real from 1980, late 1980, early 1981, in the 850 range. So that's Jumayan drop from the 1800. That's a big, it's a pretty big upgrade. Some of them have actual Brazilian rosewood fretboards. Um, and So there are some, again, I point these things out to let you know that there are on the secondary market, again, I always get back to this, so many wonderful gems and treasures out there that you really should deep dive into and explore, because for the money you're getting, I haven't found one. Believe me, I'm looking for one. if I could find, if I could find an 850 from that period of time, trust me, I'm on it. I'm on it. This one is an 82, which is the last year that's coming. But it has in it pickups that are second to Dry Z's. It still has its original pickup, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Um, Let me talk a little bit about Fujigen. And Fujigen was a giant in the Japanese guitar industry. They, in 1981, acquired Maxon's entire pickup division. So 1981. Again, I talked about that 80 to 81 where they were having some supply problems because there were some things going on there with their supply. They were having supply issues. And by 81, they were picked up by Fujigen Gaki. Fujigen Gaki produced, this is a Fujigen Gaki guitar. So a well-known Japanese guitar industry giant. But they got the pickup division, including the patents, the expertise, and the equipment. So this marked the beginning of a new era for Greco guitars, with Fujigen pickups taking over from 1982 onwards. There was a transitional period there in 82, to be honest with you, and the super reel that I have coming is actually one of those transitional guitars. Usually they came with pickups called U2000s. The one that I got came with double tricks. Double tricks. So at the top of the line, at per pickup, so one pickup of the Dry Z at that time was listed as Nima yen. At Ichiman Hasen yen, right underneath that came the double tricks. So I'm excited that a set of those are on its way, and it's still in its original guitar from '82. That'll be exciting to hear. So let's talk about these pickups. Now, during this period, Greco introduced new models and pickups, such as the Dry 1982 or the Dry 82s. Again, people, well, what's people? There are people who argue the quality of the difference between the Dry 82s and the Dry Zs. They're essentially the same pickup. The double trick that I just mentioned that I'm looking forward to getting, and the Screamin'. Now, each one of these had its own unique characteristics, catering to the diverse taste of guitars from around the world. For example, speaking of the double tricks that's coming with the next shipment in the Super Reel, the double trick was known for its versatility and balanced tone. And the Screamin' pickups were designed for a more aggressive, high output sound. Translation: one was Allen nickel pickup magnet, and the other one was ceramic magnets. Because again, ceramic magnets became the rage at that time, especially because of the super distortions. Um, Now, the Maxon pickups, for instance, use a variety of magnets to achieve different tones. The U1000, for example, used ferrite magnets and had a more modern high gain sound. Ferrite magnets, we talk about ceramic, ferrite, and alnico. Meanwhile, pickups like the U2000 used alnico 5 pickups, offering a sweet vintage tone reminiscent of the 50s and 60s. Um, uh, I had a set of U2000s at one point while I was in my studio in Singapore, and a set of U1000s as well. So I've gone through the Maxon range. I think that the U2000s are very close, as I was trying to describe here in my notes, again to the 490 and the 490 and the 498 R&T from Gibson pickups. Uh, if you're familiar with those pickups, that's what these Maxons sounded like. But an Alnico 5 pickups, it generally has what I call a gritty sound to it. A sweet in the neck, a gritty in the bridge. It's a great combination. The U1000 had ceramic magnets. The U2000 which gives it's a crisp, powerful tone. U2000 and PU had Al Nickel 5s. The Dry Cs and the Dry 1982s had Al Nickel 3 pickups. So these replicas of those pickups, also, these are Al Nickel 3 magnets in here. So again, magnets do play a role in the tone. And it has a softer, more vintage character. I agree. Honestly speaking, if you are looking for the classic PAF tone, look for a set of humbuckers that have Ionico 3 magnets in it. And you will be happy. You'll be able to achieve those tones that have that vintage character to them. The Screamin' were ceramic, and again, the double tricks were Alnico 5. Changing the type of magnet in a pickup can dramatically alter its tone is the point of going through this. And just telling you that again, with Japanese pickups, they had a wide range from ceramic to ferric to Alnico, and then Alnico 5 and 2 and 3, everything in between. And so it's really comes down to knowing what the characteristics that you're looking for in terms of your tone, if you're looking and interested in Japanese pickups, and then researching and finding out which ones closer suit that tone that you're looking for. And I guarantee you that for the money, you're going to be happy. But again, it starts with a little bit of research. You got to kind of look into what it is that you're looking for. I again was introduced to a real dry Z tone long time ago. I got offered recently another super reel, by the way, the 1200. But I passed on it. They just wanted too much money. And one of the reasons why they want a lot of money for those, too much in my opinion, is because it has those dry Z's in it. Just something to think about. Changing the type of magnet in a pickup can dramatically alter its tone. Alnico magnets tend to give a sweeter, more vintage tone. So, I'm preaching to the choir here. I realize, especially with my Uncle Carlton here listening in. But for those of you out there who are not familiar with this, I will go through this very quickly. Alnico magnets have a sweeter, more vintage tone. Ceramic magnets can produce a higher output and a brighter sound. Again, that's why I mentioned back in the 70s, a lot of cats were pulling those now those PAFs out of their Gibsons, and they were putting in DiMarzios, early DiMarzios, and other ceramic and super distortions, other ceramic pickups, because they wanted the output, they wanted that punch. And this diversity of pickups allowed Greco and Maxon to offer a wide range of sound to suit any musical style, which is why I think these Japanese guitars to this day are considered again to be so nice, because again the character of these 70s XL pickups in this Strat again was an example, much like Ishida-san was trying to do there with the dry Z's, and trying to really replicate as close as possible the sound of the PAF. The same is no less with these XLs. They listen to 50s strats, 50s and 60s strats, and they said, let's try to get as close to the tone as we can as possible with these pickups. And by the way, again, this is the 70s, not 20 years out from or less, to a decade out from the pickups that they were getting copies of and copying. And that's why I do believe why these are so illuminating to me, is because these are pickups that are really as close as you're going to get to original Strat pickups from that time period as you're going to get. That's why I said this is the strattiest Strat I've ever heard. Changed my mind about Strats. I wish I could get Uncle Carlton to play this. See if we can change his mind. Probably not. Well, but I think if any guitar had a shot at it, it would be this one. So there's that, guys. Now, um, let's talk about. Let's take a minute and talk a little bit about investment potential of these Japanese pickups, not the guitars themselves per se. Because again, you know, even with the dry Z's taken out of it, a super real 1800 is still going to fetch pretty good coin. Um, because somebody could, of course, go along and have a set of these slipped in, and you're there, pretty much. But as Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell said, "Ain't nothing like the real thing, baby." They do fetch a lot, but if you took those pickups out, the pickups in themselves, as I pointed out, will fetch a pretty penny. So, speaking of that, let's talk about the investment potential of vintage pickups. As I mentioned earlier, some pickups like the Dry Z are now fetching up to $600 a set. The rarity and quality of these pickups make them highly desirable, not only for their tone, but also as collector items. These are This is a transitional vintage guitar. So a transitional vintage means that within 5 years' time, these will be true vintage guitars. And anything over 50 years old is considered to be vintage. And the pickups in these, again, being so close to the original source material, and the precision in terms of how they really went after chasing that tone, and actually they captured it. they 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 actually caught the dragon and by the tail, and that in itself makes these pickups, regardless of the investment, but the quality of the tone is worth looking into. So much so that I bought another. Also, I didn't mention again, like I said, I'm on my guitar safari right now. I'm drawing a beat. It could be possible. Also, I'll have another Greco Strat in here, the Super Sounds, the 600 from 1977. Also, with all three of its original XLs. The bridge pickup in this one is a Fender, but the other two pickups are the original XL. This one that's coming in has all three original XLs in it because I love the tone of it. Uncle Carlin says no, no Stratocasters at all. Well, I got my reply was that no, that he didn't even reply on that one on the I got that one on WhatsApp. That's funny. Um, I think, however, the tone of these, again, they're so close to that time period. The Japanese are so precise in really trying to capture that sound that if you come across vintage Japanese pickups, you might want to pick them up and try them out because you might be pleasantly surprised for less than, this is boutique. So these are handmade. These are hand wound in Croatia by a guy who uses all the original materials that were used to make these when he was replicating it. And This is considered boutique. But you can get some Japanese pickups, like, for example, those tricks, the double tricks that I have coming in for less than the price of these copies of the Dry Z's. Again, that's kind of a testament to how popular the Dry Z's are. But you can get a set of the double tricks. Again, just one step below, same attention to detail as those Dry Z's, but they aren't considered to be as they aren't the thing. I'd like to play them and put them against these. Maybe take the double tricks out, put these Dry Z's in, and do a little bit of back and forth and see what the big difference, a Nisen yen difference. One, I told you, one was Nima yen, the other one was Ichiman Hasen yen. There's only $20 difference between those two pickups. And for some reason, the fact of the matter is that even copies of the Dry Z's cost more than those double tricks these days. So investing in Japanese pickups can be a smart move if you know what to look for. Models like the Double Trick and the Screamin' are great tonal addition to your collection, but try to give them at a good bargain. Just make sure you do your research and verify the authenticity of the pickups before making a purchase as well, because boy howdy, there's a lot of copy Dry Z's out there. Fake Dry Z's out there. You would think to yourself, who the hell would fake, some, 50-year-old, 30, 50-year-old, 40, 50-year-old Japanese pickups? Believe me, if there's money like that, in it, as I described to you, where there's a dollar, there's a way. And they certainly are making fake Dry Z's out there. So that's a little bit of something too. If you're dealing again with a reputable Japanese dealer, if you got a guy or you got cats over there who will pull it apart and show you what's going on, they'll actually take the guitar apart and say, well, here's a stamp on the back, and you can see it is what it is, then you're probably safe. And again, with the dollar and the euro and all these other currencies against the yen, this would be the time to really start looking into possibly doing that, even on a tight budget. Again, some of these Greco Strats, if you really like Strats, got an ash body, you got a maple neck, you've got a rosewood fretboard, you got all the bell five-way switch on these things. And some of these models, not this one, but some of those models can be had for the price of a Squire Stratocaster. And I'm not kidding you, from the 70s. You can get a 70s, like the 600 I have coming in. It's not very expensive. It's again, this is a 700, then there's a 600 below it. Still a cool guitar. Three-way switch, not five-way switch, but still has the excels. It's the pickups that I'm interested in, really, in natural. But those guitars can be had in Japan for the price, and in some cases, cheaper than the price of a Squire Classic Vibe. Would you rather have a 70s Japanese Strat with with phenomenal pickups in it, or a Squire? Again, I'm just letting you guys know. These are facts. Whether you're aware of this or not, and because I have the ability to show them to you, hold them hand, see, hey guys, I actually got one too. So you know you can too. I really would like to encourage you to look into these. What's the best way to maintain vintage pickups, keeping them in a stable environment, avoid moisture, uh, cleaning them with a soft cloth and every now and then, taking care of it just like you would take care of the rest of your gear, I hope. The reason why this 1978 Greco looks like it's, I mean, I didn't polish that headstock. That's how it looks. This thing looks like it just pulled off the rack. Still has the original stamp on the back of it, the factory stamp. The reason why it is this way is because the owner of it took good care of it, polished it up. He had respect for his instruments, and I encourage you to. You can see stack of cases behind me. If the guitar is not being used, it's kept in a case. The few that I play, I keep them clean every day and I take care of them. And it's no different for pickups on your guitar. Every now and then, it's good to just clean them with a soft cloth and keep the maintenance on them. Keep it away from moisture. Don't keep your guitar. I hope you're not keeping your guitar in a damp garage. For God's sake, I hope not. Damp house, that can't be helped, but damp, yeah, yeah, or basement or something like that. And the the investment that you make in those Japanese vintage pickups, the guitar maybe, the pickups for sure, because these have a reputation to them. They are well known. So a little bit of history there about the Greco pickups and their tie into Maxon and their tie into rock history through the Maxon Super 70 pickup. I mentioned was Van Halen's bridge pickup in his monster, his Frankenstrat, and defined the sound of rock with that first album. That first that's a Maxon Super 70 pickup. People still will debate that, but it's pretty clear that that's what it was. And just from his buying, his purchase history up to that point, and he waxed it. He dipped it in wax. Van Halen is credited as the first guy to dip his pickup in wax to keep the feedback. That's funny to me because I always thought the whole idea behind humbuckers was the hum, to be bucked or reduced. Humbucker. That's why it's called a humbucker. Buck the hum. A very old-fashioned kind of way of speaking, but that's where the term humbucker comes from. I always thought, I never said, well, why would you dip it in wax? But some of them squeal. There is squeal to them. These bad boys are unwaxed, not wax potted, just like the original Dry Z's, and they squeal. But I like the squeal. But Ed Van Halen is supposed. I don't know if that's true or not, but he's attributed being with the first guy to do that, and it was with a Japanese Maxon pickup. So dig that. So a little bit of history there on these Japanese pickups tonight. I thought I would go through on tonight's discussion. Um, little bit of food for thought, also regarding going out and maybe picking up one of these instruments. Um, I think I think they're worthwhile. I think they're something to really be enthusiastic about. I haven't been really enthusiastic about guitars until I really started getting into some of these Grecos and Yamahas lately. I have a passion again building up in me for these instruments because they're so doggone fascinating, each and every one of them. And also, it's an opportunity for me to learn something new that I didn't know before. Again, like I said, the history of the Maxon, the Greco Maxon pickups are again the history of guys who were like the original boutique builders, or at least they were really chasing sound, and and it just it's funny to me that you know if you can get a set of XLs, that would be a way better option, especially if um, you're doing an upgrade on your Fender and you want Strat, and you said, "Hey, I really want to get that real tone from back in the day." Instead of reaching into the Fender pickup collection, maybe reaching into the Japanese Maxon Greco, pickups from back in the day will be a more pleasant outcome, and cheaper too, and cheaper too. I'm just saying. Again, I'm going to review this. I will be shooting a video on this Greco tomorrow and playing it and letting you hear the sound. I'll play it through my good amp, my Laney with the 72 greenback in it, but and maybe through the Fender as well. We'll see with the Jensen speaker, maybe both. We'll switch between the two, but you'll hear what I mean by this. Either way, can't go wrong. And I will also be on the hunt just for XL pickups by themselves because I think that in any guitar that you stick those, as you know, I'm a parts collector, and I would like to have just an extra set of those XLs sitting around. So there is that, and just so again, these are things that I'm excited about. I've got a spark lit underneath me again when it comes to guitars. When you're dealing in guitars like I do, uh, it can be a little numbing after a while, especially at the beginning of the month when it's time for me, hey, great, you got some great ones in. Hey, great, you were able to move some product, so you can pay some bills. But guess what? It's time to do it all over again. You got to start the hunt over again. I got get up in the morning, get my cup of tea, open up the laptop, and spend hours just searching through all the different sites that I have tagged, looking to see what comes up. And you got to be quick sometimes. But it can be a little dulling after a while, after hours and days and hours, just page after page and page after page of guitars. And but these excite me, so I'm looking for them. The hunt is exciting to me again. I found game that I find worthy of hunting and seeking out. And so you're going to see a lot of Grecos coming up here. And if I can find a Yamaha Lord Player 500, then we probably have another Yamaha coming through here. I think I'm good on Yamahas for right now. Um, but you're going to see a lot of Grecos coming through here. Got the I, because my clients seem to like them. They seem to be popular, so I'm not too worried about getting stuck with a bunch of Grecos, as long as I can get them reasonably and move them on reasonably. Um, so look forward to that, guys. But I'm really, as much as I was looking forward to that Orville by Gibson and getting a chance to try that out and see what that was like. I'm really excited to get a super reel in. So that should be coming up this month, a super reel, and possibly another Greco 600 super sounds. But we shall see. I'll say that tentatively, it looks pretty positive, but you never know. You make an offer to people on things, and sometimes they're receptive, sometimes not so much, and then you have to make a plan B. But I am looking forward to presenting that, at least listening to these through sound samples of these fantastic Maxon Greco pickups. And that's about it for that. I hope you guys got something out of that. There at the beginning, there's a mention of Maxon pickups and Goto. Yeah, Goto parts on these. These are Goto parts on these for sure. Yeah, and that's pretty cool in itself because Goto is known as high quality. So again, reaching back in time, taking a bit of a risk, reaching out to another country for $500 US, including shipping. I'm not kidding. There's no VATs in the States, but $500 to $600, including shipping from Japan, you can have something as nice as this. And again, $500 to $600 is what you're paying for a classic vibe. And I just, again, the cool. Would you rather have a '70s, Strat, or would you rather have a modern production classic vibe that's trying to copy that '70s Strat? Again, to me, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. And so again, I throw this stuff out there and put it in your face just to tell you, look in the secondary market. Oh, there are. I'll end this tonight by reminding you my mantra about every day as we speak right now in Indonesia. They're warming up. It's early morning there. Um, their factory. They have 3 shifts a day. They go through a tractor trailer worth of wood per shift. That's a lot of wood for a lot of guitars that don't necessarily need to be built. There's a glut of new guitars right now, so much so that it's causing economic issues in the new guitar market, um, and stagnation in the secondary market. But maybe that's a good thing for some of us. Maybe this is the time when you can stealthily acquire some nice pieces in the secondary market for cheap, especially with the yen exchange rate being what it is right now. So that is that. Japanese magnets, I'm sorry, Japanese pickups being no exception. If you don't want to go for the whole guitar, then look around, see if you can find some Japanese XL, any Greco Maxon pickups, certainly from the list that I went through tonight, and you'll be laughing. I think you'll be a happy man, and you'll get a better deal and a better pickup than even some of these expensive boutique pickups. Just a fact. Something to think about. All right, I want to thank you guys for tuning in this evening and watching the Wednesday night hump and us talking about vintage Japanese pickups. If you are watching this in the live stream, I want to let you know I appreciate you doing so. Don't forget to hit the like button if you haven't done that. Down in the comment section of this video, I'd love to hear from you. So if you're going to watch this on the rewind, also take the time to put a comment down below to know that you couldn't make it here tonight, but you did make it to watch it. I do want you guys to know that I do appreciate you doing so, hitting the like, and I'm trying to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end. Thanks, Ben. You take care. I'm trying to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of this year. I am halfway there, and I am totally confident that it can be achieved. But if you haven't done so, please join this community that's growing all the time and hit the subscription button. join in with us. I would love to have you. Always, uh, it's just a pleasure to grow this community and to have new members and to hear from new people here in the live stream. I want to thank all you guys who did show up tonight to listen to including my Uncle Carlton. Thank you, Uncle. I want to thank all you guys who took the time to listen to my rantings about Japanese pickups for the last hour. Thank you so much. I will check you guys out on Sunday night for the Sunday at Mike's. There will be a regular content video coming up probably this Saturday regarding this Greco Strat here next to me. And until then, you guys take care. I will say Oyasumi Nasai or Ohio gozaimasu, depending upon where you are. Since we're in the Japanese pickup discussion, we'll use some Japanese to end this. Anyway, you guys take care. Bye bye.